Hello everyone, thank you so much once again for watching another one of my videos and for sticking around for another video that is centered on the differences between introversion and extroversion. Because this video is going to look at a key component that we haven't touched on really before that differentiates an introvert from an extrovert. And this key component is going to offer a new understanding, a new perspective into why we are the way that we are and how we can use this information to enhance the quality of our lives and make life a bit more enjoyable and bearable. Okay, so let's get into today's video. So what exactly is the key component that I'm going to be addressing? Well, it is stimulation. I feel like we all have a basic understanding of what stimulation is, but it's important to get into the psychological definition of the key term so that we really have a good foundation for what the rest of the video is going to entail, because the rest of the video is going to build off of this key term. Okay, so what is the definition of stimulation for the purpose of this video? Stimulation is the sensory input that we take in from our surroundings, from our environment, from the outside world that we ingest. So it could be flashing lights, it could be a smell, it could be a noise, it could be types of people. It really does range, from different things. So this is important to know because there was this one psychologist and he went by the name, let me double check, Eisnick. Yes. In the late 1960s, he was very influential because he used stimulation to back up beliefs that he had about introversion and extroversion. He hypothesized that humans seek just the right amount of stimulation. Not too much, but also not too little. Piggybacking off of this hypothesis, he believed that extroverts prefer more stimulation and introverts preferred less stimulation. And this can explain why extroverts typically gravitate towards working in teams and being around a lot of people, whereas introverts gravitate towards isolation and just kind of being in their own little bubble, right? Being homebodies. He believed that the basis for these differences can be traced to a part of the brain known as the ascending reticular activating system. ARAS is the acronym. He speculated that this part of the brain regulates our levels of arousal, and this is done by controlling the amount of sensory stimulation that comes into the brain. He believed that introverts naturally have information channels that are wider, allowing for more stimulation and information to come in, but causes them to experience energy drainage and over-arousal. Whereas extroverts, on the other hand, naturally have information channels that are a bit more narrow, thus allowing for less information to come in, but because of not as much information coming in, makes them feel like they are under-aroused and makes them crave more stimulation. Now, it's important to note that different parts of the brain are more aroused than other parts of the brain at different times. And also, there are different kinds of arousal. You might be more sensitive to one type of information that you are receiving versus another type of information that you are ingesting. But regardless, Eisnick actually turned out to be right with his hypothesis in a very general sense. There's a host of evidence that supports the notion that introverts are typically more sensitive to various kinds of stimulation than extroverts are. And also that introverts and extroverts need different levels of stimulation in order to function at their best. When we view personality types as preferences for certain levels of stimulation, we can begin to have the power to make our life a lot easier. Because now you can situate yourself in environments that are favorable to your personality type. In other words, you can situate yourself in optimal levels of arousal. What I want you to practice is making note of your sweet spots, because knowing your sweet spots is going to help you in times in which you feel either under aroused or over aroused, and it will help bring you back to homeostasis, right? So let me paint you a picture of times in which you can feel a sweet spot if you're an introvert, and how that can fluctuate, and how you can use that sweet spot to gravitate back to a familiar feeling if you are not able to access it in the present moment. Okay, so say your day is looking like this. You get up and it's the weekend, maybe it's a Saturday, you don't have to work, and you're reading a book, and it's outside in your patio by nature, right? So there's not a lot of noise going around, but you're stimulated by the knowledge that you're ingesting, the wisdom that you're ingesting from the book. But then you start to feel kind of bored after 40 minutes, because you realize that your mind is wandering and you have to keep rereading the same sentences because you're not really getting fulfilled anymore from reading that book. Your mind's going other places and you can't help but get off track because you're not really getting fulfillment from that book anymore. So you realize that it's time to put the book down and do something a little more exciting. Do something that has a lot more stimulation. So you hit up your friend and you guys decide to go and get lunch. Okay, so at this lunch, there's a lot of people walking around. There's other conversations that your subconscious is taking in. There's visuals that you're taking in too. There's, the food that you're ingesting. So there's a lot more stimulation and you have to keep up with the dialogue that you and your friend are engaging in. You have to pay attention. There's more focus involved, and your self-presentation too. You have to make sure that you're engaging in good manners. So a lot more stimulation is happening. And so now you feel a bit more aroused in your environment. But then say your friend's an extrovert and now she wants to go to a party that's happening after. Well, you go into the party and now you notice that you're feeling a little bit too aroused, a little too overwhelmed with the sensory information that is around you. And so now you're over aroused. It's a little too much, and you notice that your energy is starting to drain a bit. Your social battery is starting to decrease. So how can you go back to that sweet spot? Because it's not like you're going to keep a book in your bag. I mean, if you can if your purse is big enough, but if you're a guy, you don't carry around a purse really, and it's just not a very efficient method, right? So instead, what is going to be something that is like your sweet spot, that is going to be more resourceful for you, something that you don't have to depend on anything else in order to be able to access it? Well, think to yourself, when I was reading that book, it was quiet and it was, I was ingesting wisdom, right? So maybe this is just a thought, and this is what I use. I use mantra meditation in order to bring me back to a sweet spot. Okay, so if I'm at a party and there's too much, I just excuse myself to the bathroom and breathe in, breathe out, take some deep breaths, and then repeat a mantra in my head over and over and over again, because that is accessible wisdom. That is something that I know is going to rewire my subconscious. That's going to elevate my mood almost instantaneously, if not for a few minutes after the fact, and just recharge my battery just a bit, just to make me last a few more hours. Because you can leave, yes, you do have the free will to be able to do so, but sometimes it's just not appropriate to leave, right when you're feeling drained, or, there's just like social cues that you pick up on that you realize, okay, I need to wait it out a bit. So in the interest of other people and out of respect, find something that is like your sweet spot, that is very similar, that is going to be resourceful, that you can access at any time, any place, and makes you feel good, or as good, if not better, than one of your sweet spots that you have. Okay, so meditation is one of my sweet spots. Reading is one of my sweet spots. Watching TV probably could be one of your sweet spots. You know, something where you don't have to exert a lot of energy if you're an introvert, that is most likely your sweet spot, because we like to kind of just be in our shells and be very independent and be isolated. So things that require isolation usually are tied to your sweet spots. And this will allow you to now frame your life in a way that works in your favor, because now everything from your social life, your hobbies, your family life, your work can all be centered around those sweet spots. So I hope that this video helped, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.